Welcome to Random Fandom, a podcast for the jacks of all trades. Each episode we talk to a different master of their craft.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Hey guys, this is James at Random Fandom, and Derek's here, and this week we have Brian Thompson from the Smuggler's Room. Holy smokes, man. That chubby geek, he makes the coolest stuff. He always makes something from nothing, and I'll let him do his own.
Oh, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you, guys. I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited.
The coolest stuff. Tell me, is this your day job? I mean, what do you do?
It is not. It's my night job. Yeah. So I have a day job and then a night job.
And your day job is also making cool stuff. So you do make the coolest stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hands down. Where did you learn how to do this? Can we ask what your day job is?
Yeah, I actually work for an audio video manufacturer. So we distribute audio video products for custom installation. I think speakers, networks, control systems, automation, the whole works. So that's what I've done for the last 20 years or so.
So you do make stuff. Okay.
We do make cool stuff. Yeah. I learned most of this was started with my father, actually.
Right.
So my father and my grandfather. My grandfather was a master carpenter, and then my father does kind of what we do. It's just all of our life. If you said, "Hey, I want that," he just said, "Okay, well, let's build it."
Yeah.
And the first thought is, well, we can go buy it. No, that's not what we do. We build it.
That's right.
So
it might cost another $200, but we're gonna have fun doing it and learn how it works in the process.
6 months. Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife says this thing sometimes where she'll go, "Well, we could buy that. Like, how much do you get per hour? Is it worth it?" It's like, no. It's the process. It's what you learn on the way. And the reason we wanted you on the show, Brian, was because you're like us. It's a collection of all these different skills,
right?
To an outcome, to
right.
making your perfect Star Wars tribute room, or to snazzing up the kids' land speeder. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it really was good. This is at the time of recording, this is a fairly new podcast. We've been recording for several months, but we've only released a few here. So if you're not familiar with the show yet, we really like Random Fandom. We really like differing our skill sets. Derek and I both are under the impression that the more skills you learn in any different genre of making things, it adds to the whole of what you're able to do.
Absolutely.
And so,
20 years ago, I said, I want to build a lightsaber because nobody was making them, or Master Replicas had this incredibly expensive version, right? So
right.
The internet was in its beginnings, barely there. And I found a plan for the Gravflex lightsaber. And I thought, I can go to the hardware store and buy a Dremel.
Yeah.
And I can make this thing, and like you, I sort of had tears in my eyes in the moment because you had that Gravflex build. And I found a guy out here in California that had a Gravflex untouched, and I said, well, what were you going to do with it? And he said, probably what you're going to do with it.
That's the holy grail, right?
Right. You say, what else are you going to do with what else are you going to put it on a camera?
Yeah.
Come on.
But so I learned how to use a Dremel at that time because I wanted to make this thing.
Right. Yeah. The necessity or the desire for the object created the necessity for education that allowed you to learn a new, whatever it was, a new method of some kind.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of our podcast, is that this idea of these jacks of all trades, these us who go, I don't know how to do that yet.
Right.
So I'm going to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you built?
Ooh, that's a good
For
question.
the channel or ever?
No, ever. Like the first thing I built, the first time I made a costume that I thought would be cool was I was actually already at Disney. This is the first thing I like physically. No, it's not the first thing I built, but it was the first thing I tried to like spend money on. And we tried
Yeah.
to make a Boba Fett costume, and we found this liquid metal stuff, and we thought that would be a great idea, and it's not a great idea. Don't do that. But we thought it would be great. You know, we'd like make a cardboard peppercura kind of thing. Peppercura
Right,
wasn't
yeah.
a thing right then, and we tried to
Yep.
coat it with like this liquid metal, which ended up melting
I-
everything. And it was like worst thing for. I'm pretty sure we gave ourselves lung cancer, but
I'm just picturing James having this perfect gallium helmet and putting it on his head. and having it
gallium,
melt.
yeah, and it just eats through your skull and everything else. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, God.
No, it was
the-
this
the-
stuff that you like would paste on and then it would harden, kind of like a epoxy, but it was basically metal infused. It's kind of like
So
a
it was-
metal infused epoxy.
It was chrome. I mean, it had that.
It had that feel to. Well, we could never get it polished enough to look like that.
Huh.
Okay.
Right. I'm pretty sure if
Okay.
you had like the industrial tools, you could like just kind of, just
Yeah.
like,
Buff
polish
that out
it
to a
down and
shine.
buff it
Yeah.
out, and it would be great. But we never got it to that point. So it ended up looking like Han Solo had put it together. So what was so what was like the first thing I mean, no matter how embarrassing it is, dude, I want to hear it.
It's strange because I guess I'll answer it in two ways, and I hate to do that to you, but the first thing I remember building was helping my dad build a ion blaster for a Jawa costume when I was like 6.
Wow.
And I know he did 99.8% of it, but I still felt like I helped. I can remember doing certain things on the bandsaw, and we learned the bandsaw at a young age. I remember using that bandsaw at probably 6 or 7, and I have a 6-year-old nephew
still
right
got all
now.
your fingers.
Yeah,
right?
I got all 10. Yeah, and I look at my 6-year-old nephew and I go, I'm not letting that kid anywhere near a bandsaw.
yeah.
The things we did as kids, having children now, my parents would say, just be home by dark.
Right. Yeah. When it's dark outside, you're home. Otherwise, I'm going to be upset. Not that I'm going to call the police. I'm just going to be angry. Right. Yeah.
Well, we had a cowbell, and my grandparents are Scottish, and my grandmother had this cowbell. And when I heard that bell, because there was nothing in our neighborhood when I was growing up,
Okay.
so we could go for like miles away. But if we heard that bell, we were we're in for it.
You better run.
We better run and grab a switch from the azalea bush on the way home, because I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah, I grew up and spent a lot of time on a ranch that you got to the ranch and you just took off towards the river.
Yeah.
And you had to be back at dark.
That's right.
I mean, that's a field. And
don't get
forest
yourself
and
killed.
river. Right. Yeah. Don't get bit by a rattlesnake. Just,
Brian, so this
Anyway,
this is sort of a leading topic. Do you think that you were infected by the Star Wars bug because of your parents? Were your parents fans, super fans?
Yeah, I joke that because my mother is an insane Star Wars fan as well, and I joke that
really
Star Wars came out in May of '77, and I was born in August of '77. And the joke all my life has been, well, you were there. It was just muffled when you saw it in the theater.
It was my first movie. I was 3.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was 6.
So you were 6?
I was 6. It was magical, but I was so young when it came out that I was just starry-eyed. I'd never seen anything like that. The fact that my parents would let me see this adult movie,
Yeah.
Right.
But by the time Empire came out, I was hooked.
Oh yeah.
True.
I remember seeing Star Wars, even though I was 3. I remember to this day seeing it, though I would probably have their memories from it being on Christmas Day on TNT so many times, right?
Sure. Oh, of course. Yeah.
But I remember that, and then I remember that Superman was like the next thing, and then Indiana Jones, and just these things just kept coming, and it really influenced like everything that I did, because I knew right then, I was like, well, I know what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it had an impact, right? I think that it's probably a combination of parents, and then on top of that, it was probably I always talk about the texture.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm in love with, is the texture. It's just the way it all feels very real versus a cartoon that was Disney when I was a kid, or something that was make believe that there was no tangibility to it, right? If that's a word.
Right.
I created a new word.
Well, it was all practical, so it was like you could touch it. There's a lot to the digital that's great, but when it's practical, you could. I mean, Yoda. I never thought of him as a puppet. So wait, we've totally gone off skew here.
Sure.
The first thing you made, man. Sorry, the blaster. But you were going to answer in two ways. Yeah. Sorry.
I think that I always think of all the things I made as a kid were always made with my dad. So there was always some element of the two of us in there.
That's cool.
And then the first thing I made as an adult was a foot to toe or toe to head Boba Fett budget build. Armor out of trash can, helmet out of cardboard, the whole works. The jetpack, actually, the jetpack is right there, and so is the helmet.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's really good. That's so much
it
better.
looks great from a distance.
Looks better than that liquid metal one that we made. I tried to melt my friend. Stuck in it. One of the other artists from Disney. Actually, I think we might try to get him on the show, but I tried sticking him in that helmet, and he was like, "Why does this smell like liquid gallium?"
Yeah, well, don't worry. You won't notice the smell after 10 minutes.
Yeah, you won't notice anything after 10 minutes.
He'll be on the ground, passed out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in Southern California. So about a month ago, I went and raided Rick Lazarini's shop.
Dude, that's the guy from Stan Winston.
Yeah.
I know the name.
Legacy.
He did everything. I was there, and I met his wife and him, and we chatted for a while. He's reducing his shop. He's not anywhere going out of business, but he's reducing his shop. So he had a full-on Bridgeport. He had industrial-sized lathe, and I'm like, I guess I could put it all in my backyard.
No. But moving a Bridgeport is not something.
No, you need a forklift and
exactly.
Crane,
and it even said that.
Yeah.
It said, we do not have a forklift on site. If you're going to pick this up, bring your own damn forklift. But I got a bandsaw. I got a vacuum former. I got
you got a vacuum former?
Yeah.
Huge. Did you have him sign all of it?
It's built.
I would.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, he built all of it. He built the vacuum former and the vacuum chamber that I got.
The vacuum chamber. That's so funny.
Right?
Like
the first thing the kids wanted to do was put marshmallows in it. Because you start pulling out atmospheres, right? And the marshmallows just get huge. Yeah. And so then I turned off I turned off the vacuum, and they shrunk down and got all shrivelly. They're like, oh man, they thought they were actually growing marshmallows.
No.
They wanted the giant.
They grow up, and then they get it because it's lost. You lose it all. Then it goes back down, and it comes out like the.
It looks like a raisin.
Yeah, it looks like the stuff that you get in Lucky Charms.
So I'm building my shop-esque outside because it's Southern California. So I just have it up, and I have a shed that I built and
canopy. Okay, yeah.
So the shed, you're in your garage?
Me? Yeah, I am. Yeah. My wife has never parked a car in here ever.
It's one of the guys on Stuff Made. The guy on Stuff Made here is just him. It's Shane. He said, "Honey, I need a new milling machine. You're gonna have to park your car outside." Just, what? Yeah. I don't have a garage, so
I wouldn't imagine in Tokyo there's a lot of room for a garage.
Some houses have a carport, but
okay. Yeah.
That's no. But so I had to get a whole nother building for my shop.
Nice.
But, how did you build that up? I'm guessing over the years you learned
the garage
7 and the garage.
Oh, you mean the tools and things?
Yeah, everything.
Like I said, my grandfather was a carpenter, and my dad, he didn't just build random stuff, but it was everything from let's build a house, let's remodel a house, let's build displays for my grandfather owns an insurance office in a small town in southern Colorado, and they have big front windows. And so the thing was, they always had a display of some kind. So at Christmas, we had what we called Mr. Proto, which is basically a balloon inflated that was then covered in paper mache and created into a solid head that was painted. So then you had all these paper mache heads and bodies of elves with a big Santa Claus display and floating packages in the air. And so like the front display was a canvas for him to build all this random stuff.
Cool.
He built a space shuttle, like a Discovery space shuttle one year that was, I want to say it's probably in the realm of 5 to 6 foot long. And then the wingspan, it was all carved out of foam. And I mean, it was amazing. And so growing up, I had access to all the tools I could ever want.
Right.
And
all the inspiration as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that idea that you're not restricted from anything. If you can imagine it and you can figure out how to build it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was weird to meet people later in life where you'd see something and oh man, I'd love to have that. Well, let's just build it. But you can't do that.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well,
But,
it's kind of funny
you know,
because that mindset pervades everything, and it will spoil everything if you don't know how to make. It's like my wife didn't like the sink in the house, in our first house, and I went to the shop and got another sink, turned off the water, and she was at work, turned off the water, and
Right.
replaced the faucet.
Replace the thing. Yeah.
And she came in, she was like all grumpy, and she was like, I had an awful day. And I was like, why don't you get a nice cup of tea? She's like, okay, we'll give you tea. And I was like, no, you get the tea. I didn't want to point it out.
Use the water.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the tea.
Right.
And she's like, you can't get me some tea. I just wanted this is so nice. So who did it? Well, I did. No, I mean,
you didn't.
who did you
Who'd
have?
you hire?
Yeah, who'd you have to come in? I was like, I did it. She's like, how do you know how to do that? I'm like, the whole mindset of being able to do something, I think, is really necessary. It's something that people don't have nowadays. It's like you're either going to darn your socks or you're going to buy new ones. One of these is going to ruin the environment. And I realize that buying something for sometimes may be the economical way.
Sure.
But you
yeah,
are so deprived, like if you don't learn how to do something yourself.
Yeah.
Did I
Maybe
just
it's
go
a
from socks to
concentrate,
kitchen sinks?
but the minute I saw your channel, which I love, by the way,
Thank you.
and if we can send all our listeners to you,
We're
we
going to
will,
plug you.
because-
So
Oh heck yeah!
we're
Appreciate
plugging
it.
you everywhere.
And that's
This
part
is-
of this. Part of this podcast is that we're
That's your
sharing.
channel.
We want everybody to find you. We want everybody
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy and grow and inspire from what you do.
Yeah.
But
No
you know,
joke, guys.
you
If
and I
you
were-
haven't seen the Smuggler's Room, go to it
Go to
now.
it
Like
now.
turn
Well,
this
not right now.
podcast
No,
off.
No.
Okay.
Finish
okay,
the podcast.
okay,
Finish the podcast and
Finish
then
the
go.
podcast. It is so good. Like Bill Duran from Punish Props is just like, I mean, he's become one of your fans.
It's
Like,
blown my mind. I watched him for years.
I know, right?
Yeah,
From his
years.
basement. Well, that's
Yeah,
you now.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
I knew him from Chinbeard. And
Yep.
that's way back. And I'm dropping stuff over here. And I'm not kidding, man. You're the level of, I'm not even getting words out right. Words are hard. I mean, write Evan and tell him.
Brutal.
The level of detail that you put into stuff is absolutely fantastic. And you really know just like that aesthetic of getting stuff. It's not just the Star Wars aesthetic, because you make lots of stuff. I mean, you do.
Yeah. Thank
everything.
you.
Yeah. But I mean, we all love Star Wars. We're just
Right.
season 1 of Random Fandom is just going to be all about Star Wars and movies and stuff. But
Good way to start.
that's
Eventually.
right. Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
that level
there's
of
a lot out
aesthetic,
there.
it takes an attention to detail that a lot of people that I don't think they have, but they could.
Yeah.
So how did you get that?
I think it's trial and error, and we try to tell everybody that too, because the purpose of your podcast is, like you said, is to share all the different people that do all these things, which is
Right.
absolutely amazing. And that's what we want to do as well. We might overuse the laser cutter, but I'm obsessed with it. But there's so many different techniques and tips and tools that you can learn
Mhm.
from different people. And when you start making something, the first time out of the gate, it's probably not going to look like what you wanted it to look like.
It's like
And
my
I think
Boba
that's
Fett.
true for everything that you build. Because even to this day, every time I finish a project, it's like, wow, man, I butchered that. And next time I'm going to do that better.
Yeah.
And but I think, again, it's all about that process. We don't spend our time doing it for the result. And I know it's cliche to say it's all about the journey, but it really is, right? It's all about, if you like to make things and create something, whether that's with your hands in a shop or with tools, or you're a 3D artist creating a perfect rendering of a space, or you're a writer that creates an amazing story, it doesn't matter. It's all different forms of creation, and you're going to pick up different tools along the way. And I think that is really what it's all about for us. Like, our motto is building something out of nothing. And that is applicable to, we used some random piece of junk to make something, or we thought of something out of our own imagination, which I really think is crushed in a lot of people at a young age.
It really is.
It's
really
taken away
is.
from us. You're encouraged to grow up. Well, grow up and, whatever. But if you take that away,
there's a school here that I don't know if I can't really plug him. It's a Japanese, one of Japan's leading architects, Ito Toyo. I met a couple of years ago. Somebody else wanted to interview him, and I just translated for him. Ended up meeting the guy, and he's really, really crazy, absolutely imaginative guy. And one of the questions was, how do you get that imagination? He said, well, I mean, everybody else always pitches, I'll present this is within the budget. And he's like, you have to do the elephant pitch. I mean, shoot so far beyond what they're looking for that they're like, you can do that, okay, and they'll figure out how to get the money for it.
Right.
But he started a school, and so I sent my kids to it. And the idea is the difference between creativity. I'm just all a long story to get to this point. The difference between creativity and imagination is when you have this idea of creativity, the word create is in there. What can you physically make? And the word imagination doesn't have that boundary to it. Right. And so he wants to feed children's imaginations, and he's teaching them how to do architecture, but he's not saying, oh, it has to be structurally sound or anything. I mean, these kids are like making bubble houses, and my daughter, literally, she's like, I'm going to have a diamond house. And I'm like, why? She goes, because I love all the facets on the diamond. I'm like, okay, so what's going to be made of? Diamonds. I told you it's a diamond house. Okay. Fair enough. 7, so, or 10 now. But anyway, the idea is, you don't crush that imagination, kids. So how do you not do that? And I've got all of my girls are your fans. They're like, you can use junk to make this stuff. And I'm like, don't you come to the office with me? She's like, I know, but you got junk everywhere. You at least organize it. You organize very well, man. I was really impressed with you like null everything out. I'm like, oh, that's good.
It's a tight space. So it has to be somewhat organized.
Move to Japan, buddy.
No, no way. Nope. But this would be the whole house. We'd sleep underneath the assembly table. There's no way. I couldn't imagine. Yeah.
For years, Brian, I knew that you and I were cut from the same cloth. I mean, because I have a drawer in the garage full of quick milk lids, because I thought those would be great for a lightsaber. You stack them, it would be like, it would look like the grenade. It'd look like the British grenade.
Yeah.
I love those things.
All riveted out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those. They don't look like that anymore.
No.
They don't look like that anymore. So I have hundreds of them in a drawer. These little blue. My wife's like, we're starting to downsize. I'm like, no, we're not. Yeah, exactly. See, and
there you go. Yep, there you go.
Right? So, we're like, exactly. See, we're on a podcast. Nobody knows what I'm saying.
Sorry,
I'm holding up a lightsaber from
Obi-Wan's lightsaber.
It's Obi-Wan's lightsaber, and it's made from the original parts. So this is an actual grenade, and this is a gear piece, and this is a stove.
Some people have been selling them off. I think they're COVID, hurting, and they need money. So
I think they have been.
Yeah,
I've seen it. Yeah,
because that grenade's been going for, I don't know, like $1,000, something like that. It's not cheap.
It's crazy.
But oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going to piggyback on the lid story, because at Christmas last year, I was in Texas where my dad lives, and he was pulling out drawers of stuff. And I swear there were parts and pieces that I remember as a kid that he had in drawers. I mean,
They're still there.
They're still there.
There's a-
Because someday there's going to be a
40
project
years old. Oh yeah. Yeah.
that's going to be
Did I
ready for it.
did I show you? I showed you the cat that I had made for as a music video for somebody, and I finally got to use parts on there that I had been saving for, like, I knew they'd be good someplace, and they'd been sitting around for, I think they'd probably been in this shop for about 10 years.
The real question is, when you were making the cat, did you come across a spot and say, I've got the perfect part for this, and I know exactly what box it's in?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, my wife comes in, she's like, this place is so junky, but I know exactly where
Everything is.
thing
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so my assistant's going to be listening to this podcast, and he's going to be like, no, you don't.
My mother used to clean out my dad's shop probably twice a year, and she'd be so happy that she cleaned for him, and you could see the look in his face when he got home, and he's just looking
It's like,
around
I
going,
don't know where anything is.
all of my stuff is probably gone.
My grandfather was a woodworker, and he had, when my grandmother had passed away, he moved into their lake house, and he finally, I think he'd been waiting his whole life for this, had everything exactly the way he wanted it. And that house smelled of peat to me, like whiskey peat.
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah,
what it was at the time, but
Sure.
it just drove my mother nuts. And of course now I have this real affinity for, like deep, strong peat whiskey, but it's a
There you go.
different subject. But my mother, she'd go in and she's just like, the smell, anything would, it just drive her nuts. And so she'd go in and she cleaned everything methodically. And my grandfather would come back, he and my dad had been out for a walk or something. He'd come back and he's just like,
Yeah.
what'd you do? Where's my stuff? I can't even find my pickles, woman. She's like, I put them in the fridge. He's like, they don't need to go in the fridge. They're pickled.
Oh my God. That's fantastic.
It's everything. Didn't matter what it was. He's like, my saws. And she's like, I
Yeah.
put them in the tool shed. He's like, I was using it to fix the kitchen table. Whatever it was, right? He knew exactly where everything was, but
Right.
there's a level to I was going to say earlier, we were talking about the grenade on this a New Hope Obi-Wan lightsaber, and to be able to make something out of the original parts is really fun when you can get a hold of it, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to look at something like a juice lid, because you're
Yeah.
famous for, you love your juice lids,
Do.
to be able to look at something and go, that would be absolutely perfect as this, to think outside that box and to look at any item that you get. Oh, by the way, I have a box of hex nut screws for your machine screws and stuff that I looked and I thought Brian Thompson would love these. But to be able to they have some crazy screws over here, like star screws and stuff. It's just weird. And
Beautiful.
all these ring clamps and things that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't look like they belong on anything. But to be able to look
That's
at
what we
stuff
got.
like that and say, that could also be this,
Right.
or this.
Yeah.
I know that's a chicken skull, but I'm going to turn that into and that's my new
Right.
dashboard ornament, that's the guy from Mad Max. So
Yep.
I said
Yeah.
that because I've got that on the top of my CNC router.
The chicken skull.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to make that. I'm just going to sculpt that and 3D print it. And I just did. So there it is.
My friends know that if they give me a bag of chocolate chip cookies, I will do anything, within reason, right?
For all you listeners out there.
Of course.
There you go.
There you go.
So, and one of my wife's friends took me up on it. She goes, here you go. Here's cookies. Here's doll heads. I need you to cut them in half for me so that I can put them on shoulder pads for a wasteland thing.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's cut some baby heads. So there we go. So we got baby doll heads. And, she went to the Halloween store and bought these really just grisly looking.
And you stuck them in
Doll heads.
carbonite.
And we just got to cut them in
There
half.
you go. That's
There you go.
right.
Your Chucky and Carbonite was brilliant, by the way.
Oh,
I
Thank
want to talk
you,
about some
thank
of the
you.
stuff that you've made because this,
Sure.
man, I am not kidding. I think of myself as, well, no, I don't really think of myself as that imaginative, but other people look at me and they're like, you got a pretty good imagination. Had nothing compared to you, dude. That's Chucky and Carbonite, man. That, and the way you filmed that and edited it, it was gold.
Thank
That
you.
is, that's what YouTube is made for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
try
what
to push,
Chucky needs. Chucky needs to be in Carbonite.
right?
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen a
And
Chucky movie.
I got to give credit to my wife because we're crazy horror fans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of our biggest passions. Which we started a podcast, by the way, but we'll talk about that maybe later. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
yes.
Yes.
selfish plug there. But we were sitting there and we're talking about Halloween and saying, well, we have to do something Halloween themed. And I said, well, we've got to do something Halloween themed, but we can't just abandon the audience that has come to watch us for the sci-fi side of stuff. And she literally said, we got to put something in Carbonite. And it was either Annabelle or Chucky. I mean, it had to be one of the two because all I could picture was a doll in Carbonite. And
You should do
Yeah.
Annabelle as well and have him like in the Mandalorian when he has like several people.
right, they're all in rows. Yeah.
Did
I
you
mean, that's
see?
such a
Did you
great
see the?
scale too?
Yeah. Did you?
Perfect
What was it?
scale.
Clone Wars. Yeah, the TV show Clone Wars, when they're trying to figure out how to get into Citadel Base, and Anakin's like, "Well, just freeze some Carbonite," and you get the idea. Oh, Vader knew what he was doing when he put Solo in Carbonite, but
Right.
they all get stuck in Carbonite, and they're all like stacked up like dominoes.
Yeah. Yep.
And you ought to do more than one. That's brilliant though. But by the way, there's no selfish plug on this. This whole show is to plug Brian Thompson and the Smuggler.
Yeah.
So there's no.
We get to talk to you, and we get to share you with the rest of.
I'm such a big fan that I'm really. I mean, you keep talking about this chubby geek is going to do, and that's coming up, and I'm like, I'm talking to Brian Thompson. This is insane.
Oh man. Oh, wow.
Speaking of
That's-
which, Brian, now
appreciate it.
the just to show you, the fans won't hear it, or they'll hear it, but they won't see it until they watch the
Edit
podcast.
it out.
This is
Yeah,
your
no.
fault, Brian. This is your fault.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're
The
okay.
binoculars.
So
Do you know how many? Do you know how many hundreds of these I went through to find the right one? And then I went on the RPF and did the deeper dive and found out that
Yeah.
this is not exactly the perfect one.
No. This is a podcast, Derek. You have to
I'm
tell
sorry.
people
What
you're
I'm holding up here is Brian did this amazing,
binocular.
Star Wars binocular based on Poe Dameron's binoculars.
Yeah.
And
right.
this,
Which
what I
is
have in my hands, is the director's series Bell and Howell 3 lens.
Yeah,
It's
the
such a
tri-lens.
beautiful piece anyway. It's such
Yeah, it is.
like just by itself, you just hold
Yeah,
it up to your eyes. That's all it
It's
needs.
amazing. Yeah.
In the deep dive of the strap that's used and
Right.
the greebly bits. There's the guy that does the there you go.
James does one similar,
But-
very similar.
Well, this
I
is
love that deep dive. I love the found parts. And
Yeah.
I was like, I
Yep.
wonder if I can still find one. I figured after you did that podcast or the build, I thought everybody's going to have eaten all of them up. And
they're
there's
still
many-
all over the place. They're all over
this
the place.
one didn't cost very much, and it's
No,
in
they were
really
pretty
good
cheap.
condition.
Yeah,
It's in really good condition. But a lot of
Yeah.
them don't have the 2 dials.
correct. Yeah.
So I kept looking at Pose. I'm looking at the one in the movie, and then looking at this one.
you
and
don't
then-
need screen accuracy. I mean, I guess some people want that, but there's
I'm so anti-screen accuracy. It's not even
Well,
funny.
well, there's a shop right around the corner. I'm in Shinjuku in Tokyo, and Shinjuku is known for like having these crazy shops.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you had said something on one of your shows about that, about taking apart Bell and Howell's, and I've been doing that for years because
Yeah.
people be like, I got this old projector, I don't think it'll work anymore. Do you want it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Thanks.
I'll take the parts.
And I just take them apart. And I had already taken apart, I think, 3 of them. But this shop down the street has old cameras that are broken for
Man.
like 500 to 1,000 yen, and that's basically $5 to $10.
Yeah.
And I've got these laying around the shop. Some of them are actually, these are the last two that are still in together.
Sure.
Pieces parts.
Yep.
They make great lenses, but I mean, like little droid eyes and stuff.
Oh
But
yeah.
you look at the different things and you're kind of going, that's a handle. Nah, that's a cockpit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
Taking all that vintage stuff apart, and when I go on eBay and I find there are people that sell they call them the junk drawer.
Yeah.
And you got to look a little bit, but there are old vintage camera shops, especially, that have piles of stuff in crates, and they'll just fill a crate, wrap it, and take a
And
photo
bubble
of
wrap.
it. And say, this is $30 plus $10 shipping, or the other way around, whatever it is, and then you end up with all this vintage stuff that you
Yeah.
find in it because they're just boxing up and selling it because people are buying it. And yeah.
I do want to ask, because I have I have a big trash can over here of waste. And so, I mean, we'll get weird things like an old headlamp from a car,
Yeah.
and you take all this stuff apart, but you end up with a lot of waste.
Yeah.
How do you, because I can't throw it away in Japan, not easily. It costs hundreds of dollars to throw away
Sure.
anything. There's no place
Sure.
to throw stuff away here,
Yeah.
How do you guys, I mean, when you're making stuff, there's a lot of ecological impact,
Yeah,
right? And so
absolutely
I'm
is.
always recycling, and I love that, but there
Yep.
is a lot that you don't get to recycle.
Yeah.
What do you?
We keep, I would literally say that I keep anything that even remotely looks like it could be used for something. And I think that's why I've got, I don't know, 20 some odd bins full of stuff. So if it can be recycled and it can't be used for anything else, then I can take it to a recycle place. If it can't be recycled, I'm going to find a way 80% of the time to use it. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking over at the side. There's probably 40 they're just little plastic bins with dividers in them, and they're full to the brim, even with scrap cut pieces of metal or aluminum, because if you take the aluminum to a bench grinder or a sander and round off a shape, you can create a usable piece from it. Right. So
yeah,
I've always joked with my poor wife that, like, we're recycling, and until she started working in the shop with me, which she does a lot now, that I don't think maybe she saw that to the full extent. But now when she opens a bin and she's like, I need the perfect piece for something, there is so much to choose from because we've saved everything. And I don't feel like I'm just dumping it in a landfill somewhere for the earth to deal with, So
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Did you ever see the movie Objectified? It's a Gary Hurstwitz movie. He does movies like Helvetica and Objectified. They're basically documentaries on graphic design or aspects of that. And in Objectified, he's looking at product design, and he interviews Jonathan Ives from Apple. Yeah. And he's like, we spend so much time figuring out how to make the facets and the functions and the things that actually hold the pieces together so that we can make the thing that we want to, that, making the taking the extruded aluminum for like a monitor face, and then you take the outside of that and you turn that into a keyboard. Yeah. And making all these little things. He says you really have to be ecologically minded these days. And using found stuff to make other cool stuff. I can't think of a better way.
Yeah. I work in the AV industry, and that's technology, which changes every time you turn around, right?
Audio video.
Video.
Yeah, that means it's an entirely different thing over here in Japan, dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So audio video, right? So take for example
video here in Japan. not
I do not make adult video.
No.
Yeah. So we'll have a switcher, for example, a video switcher. And you can think back 2 years ago, HDMI switchers were not a thing, but you had component. And 5 or 6 years before that, you were still using composite. There's massive video switchers that are, I don't know, 12, 13 inches tall by 16 inches wide or 19 inches wide.
Yeah.
And 24 inches deep. It's full of circuit boards, aluminum, the fittings on the back end of it. And they get recycled, but they don't take all those apart and separate all those pieces out and make sure everything is recycled in the proper order. No. And I've made friends with the custom integration companies that live in my area, and I've offered, hey, you put a pile together, I'll come get it. And then I take it apart, we recycle what we can, and we keep the rest. And it'll keep me going making ridiculousness for years.
Ridiculousness. It'll keep you going making YouTube channel stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, ridiculous project.
This
go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask, go through some of the things that you've made, because to our listeners, if you haven't checked out the Smuggler's Room yet, which we highly recommend. Sorry, it's loud out here today. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not.
No.
But, I'm next to the police station in Shinjuku.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
they're coming.
Yeah, you can't hear it. They're coming for you.
Yeah.
Coming back before we go through what you've made, I think there's something to be said for. It'd be easy to gloss over this idea that you do Star Wars inspired, or you do things that are in that aesthetic, but not in the universe, but not an actual replica. And I think that frees you to be creative and use your imagination, and using sort of the vocabulary that's been created by this universe that we all love to make your own thing. Like even your R2, how many people do we know that have made R2s? And you put your own scale on it, you put your own spin on it, you put, it's so yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I have so much respect for prop replicators, especially those that go out and literally find the type of screws that are used on a particular piece. I'm fascinated by that. I think it's extraordinary. I also am the biggest fan of Roger Christian that probably ever walked the earth. And if you don't know, Roger Christian was the original set decorator on Star Wars in '77, and then also in Alien in '79 for Ridley Scott. And his meant the way he approached it was, I'm going to create things using real objects and orient them in a way that you can't tell what they were, right? But then you get this real world, this gritty, this used universe experience. Yeah.
It was funny because Harrison Ford sat down. Yeah, Harrison Ford sat down on the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
So how do I fly this? And they're like, what? And he goes, well, I mean, I need to know how to fly it, because I'm not going to be touching the same buttons all the time. I'm going to go to hyperspeed. And next time I pull this, so I got to be able to use it. It's a used
Show me
universe.
the logic behind it. Yeah.
Right. And there is a logic behind it.
There is.
Right. There's a logic behind it. So putting those two together, I think, makes for a really good stuff. I got a friend, Art Andrews, who does the
RPF.
Yeah. And he is, I mean, man, he's detailed, dude. He's oriented like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And knowing exactly where every piece goes is really, really good. So there are two sides to that coin, right? One side is, I know how to make exactly everything the way it should be and the way it looks in this, like, I mean, down to the kind of the thumbnail print in Vader's mask, right?
Of course.
Or I'm going to make something like that, and being able to do that. So if you want to make this stuff for a living, you need to be able to do both, to be honest.
Yeah, you have to understand the rules before you can break them.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what we always talk about is, if, we call the droid behind me Lefty.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rules that got broke. Number one, he's 2/3 scale. He's not a 1-to-1.
I liked that, actually.
We already broke the rule there. If you put him on film next to an actor, he's too small. Well, I get why they did R2 the way they did. And when I told my dad that I wanted to have 6 of these small scale droids around my poker table to hold drinks, That was the whole idea of why they were the size that they were.
Did you get them all done?
No. So what happened? This is a great story. I'll divert slightly. We tried to build one out of some weird stuff, right? Like a sonotube that you pour concrete in, and a bowl that we found at Target, and just some weird pieces. And I knew after we kind of quickly assembled this over a couple of days, my dad got that look in his eye that he gets. And I just knew, like, okay, I need to leave him alone for 5 years because he's going to do this exactly the way it needs to be done. And that's what he did. Sculpted every single part and piece by hand out of wood or whatever other material you could find to make it exact, perfect replica, and then built his R2, his astromech, 2/3 scale, but perfectly replicated.
So cool.
And then he made molds for all those pieces.
Yeah, I saw those vacuum forms of that.
Most of them are resin. So
is
even
that
the
what that
dome
is?
is resin. The contraption he built to pour the dome will melt your brain. And I need to do a video on that.
You have photos of
some
of it. Yeah. And I saw some of that.
I'd love to do a pour with it. It's unbelievable. So then he hands them to his son and says, here's a full set. Make yourself a droid. And then I build one that looks like it fell off the back of the Millennium Falcon and got drugged through Tatooine, right? It's like
that's the point.
And my concept behind it is I want something that you look at it and you say, well, that's from Star Wars. And then you pause and go, but I don't remember where that was. And that's the goal, right? Is it it's so in tune with the in-universe look that you can't place it, but you know what it is. If you tried to build that and paint him to look like Star Wars, like R2, you would then be disappointed. You'd say, well, you got that wrong, and that doesn't look right, and all that. And that's kind of the whole mythology that we go through in the Smuggler's Room is, I'm building an entire basement that people say is the Millennium Falcon.
See,
it's not.
That's the thing that I think a lot of fans were upset about with, and sorry to Doug Chang for this, when they redid one of the concept artists and production designers for Star Wars in the prequels, that they tried to do these things that they were really cool, but they didn't fit the universe.
They lost that connection.
With this is a used universe. And then you have guys who come in with like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and they get it. And you're like, oh, that's what I was missing. This is an old Western. It just happens to take place in space.
The Saturday Serial.
It was. I mean, it's a spaghetti Western, but
it's why the Mandalorian is doing so well.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why, Firefly did so well. I mean,
absolutely.
Can't believe they canceled that. Wow. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. I was telling my kids about, I was like, well, you like all these Disney movies? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, King Candy. So it's not pink and salmon. I was like, you know who that is? And they're like, no. I'm like, that's Wash. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. As a
K2SO, right?
What's that?
He's K2SO, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was talking about that to somebody yesterday, and they didn't know who that was. And I'm like, how can you not know?
Yeah.
Anyway, at any rate, But you get that aesthetic. That was a tangent. Good grief!
It's the texture.
I need to take my ADHD medicine.
Yeah.
I'm so excited talking to you. This is
that dirty universe. Love it.
Yeah, but it's that texture. Yeah, it's that you have a reality to a world that it's not just Star Wars though. Obviously.
No. I feel the same way about Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or anything where you can immerse someone else, the audience, into a world and sell it without question. It exists, right? Yeah.
We met years ago. We met Richard Taylor at Comic-Con.
Oh, nice.
And we just hit him on a good day. And I'm not stretching by saying that he is obsessive compulsive. like
have to be, I would imagine.
right?
Yeah.
So we were standing there with him, and we're talking, and I mean, he gave us chunks of armor and orc ears and stuff, which we have, hung up because we're like, oh my God, Richard Taylor's giving us stuff,
Oh
This
my God.
kid walks over, and clearly it was a Comic-Con. So this kid spent all year making this beautiful leather armor with plates, and and he
Richard
walks
hired
to
him.
Richard Taylor, and Richard goes, "Oh, hang on a second." He goes, "No, that's wrong. That's inaccurate. Look, you want to go? You want to take and beat up a hammer and then hit all the rivets, and the poor kid, every single critique was just, you could see him. And by the time he's like this, and he walks off. And I said, Richard, I don't think he realizes that you were complimenting him by treating him as a professional. He goes, well, how else would I treat him? He goes, I was helping him. I said, I know. I said, but I think he wanted you to just tell him how much you loved it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But for Richard, it was like, no, the rivets have to be like this, and you need to scuff the edge of the leather like that. And that's just how he is.
Yeah, but you get that idea of being a perfectionist, because I remember walking into the cave in Weta and just being like, it's good. And oddly enough, they have like a Rocketeer helmet right there, and I'm like, you didn't do that. Anyway, it was like, you didn't do that. But they have, there's so much stuff that it is meticulously detailed. But when you create this world, you have to create that texture, this aesthetic.
Sure.
And that's what covers everything. And so when somebody can feel the texture, it's not just feel the texture. When you understand it to the point of you can make it yourself, then you're teaching yourself how to make your own world.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Right.
We talk a lot about layers, right? So when you watch a movie, you might see a prop, like a Blade Runner pistol, for example, in the new Blade Runner. You see it, but I don't know that you register as a viewer the layered depth that is, unless you saw a perfectly high res still, and then go, well, there's a serial number, and it looks like you can see every rivet, and on down the line, all those layers built up is what sells that realism. If it was just a piece of plastic that was just slightly spray painted, you would know. But you as an audience, we don't always see that. And I think that's where I get obsessive about it. Is if you're going to build something, let's build 10 layers deep, but let's think 20 layers deep.
So a lot of guys' first prop is usually they paint a Nerf gun.
Right? Oh yeah, that's a great way to start.
It's a great way to start. And you see somebody like Bill Duran, and he's like, okay, so you take the MDF and you stick some 45-degree angles on it, and goes and you build it up, and I'm like, you're making your own stuff, man. And then he's resin casting it, and you're like, that's a level. Hang on, whoa.
Yeah, you go, back. Nope, I'm done.
Take it back a bit. And watching somebody, kit bash, because kit bashing is a great start. So if you guys are interested in learning how to, get into props or whatever, I do suggest to our listeners, go paint your own Nerf gun, right?
Absolutely.
Take the sandpaper, get the Nerf logo off of there.
Yeah.
If you have access to laser cutters or whatever, cut some parts and do whatever you need to it. But building those layers up on something that's already there, that's great. Eventually you get to the part where you can make something from scratch.
As a matter of fact, I can show you. We've been doing.
I love that. Love that. The Duck Hunt song just keeps going through my head.
Yeah. So we did 2 variations of it.
That's great.
Right, this week. So they're just Nerf blasters. As a matter of fact,
is that a Nerf blaster? That looks like a Duck Hunt gun from.
Well, yeah, it's the Nerf. I'm sorry, not Nerf. The Zapper gun from Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I bought a box of them for like $30, and they were all damaged. So either the electronics didn't work, or like this one, the trigger doesn't actually work. The cables were cut. And then I took the top of a vacuum. This is an old vacuum we had.
Really?
This piece. And
that's great.
Love it.
Yeah, so the idea was like you can take Nerf guns and You can go to the dollar store and buy the knockoff Nerf guns,
Right.
and then take pill bottles or old Advil bottles or whatever and cut them in pieces and glue them on for a big flash hider on the front of it. There's so much kit bashing creativity you can do with stuff like that you can find at the dollar store.
And you think, well, they don't do that in production. They do all the time.
How do you think they made the Millennium Falcon?
We're right.
Yep.
We're watching Doctor Who with the kids.
Yeah.
And River Song's blaster is off the shelf Nerf gun.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just been painted white with some greebly bits.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Brian, you're the perfect guy to explain to our listeners what greeblies are, because I keep having people ask me, "What's a greebly?" And I'm like, "Really? Really?"
It's my favorite word, and I get a mix of we love it when you say that, and please don't ever use that word again. So I don't know if we overuse it or what, but
you can never overuse that word.
I don't think you can either. Yeah. It really what it is it was a word that George Lucas created when he was talking to his team at Industrial Light and Magic while they were making the first movie, and they were using all the different model parts to give texture and yes, there you go, to give that texture and detail to the outside of the ships, like the Star Destroyer. And the word greebly, no one will admit 100% that it came out of George's mouth first. There's a lot of question of whether it was John Dykstra or where else it might have come from. I kind of think so too.
I think it's John.
Don't want to offend John or George or John, but at the end of the day, it's a word that describes something that can't otherwise be described. It's a surface.
It's the guts
detail
on the outside.
That's right. It's the guts on the outside. Mm-hmm. And if you go to England, they refer to them as either greebles or nernies.
See, I knew him as greebles. I knew him as greebles because we don't speak a lot of English here.
In
so
Southern
most of the guys
California,
I live with.
In Southern California, where they started ILM, greeblies or greebles are mechanical parts, usually kit bashed from models, be it tanks.
They're usually tanks
or all kinds of military stuff. And then nernies are organic bits here.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, like, if you Ted Haynes taught me how to make nernies, and what he does is he takes he puts on a slate, he takes liquid latex, and he brushes it on, then he blow dries it, and then he rolls it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so it makes these stringy bits that
it's what you do when you get glue and you put it on your hand as a kid.
Yeah.
You're like, right?
Yeah.
And stringy long bits.
String in it, and you roll it up. Were you talking about Ted? Sorry, I took my headphones off for a second. Were you talking about Ted?
Ted Haynes, yeah.
So,
maybe we'll say greeblies are guts on the outside, and nernies are guts on the inside.
Yeah. This is what we use here in Japan a lot. These make really good stuff, but a lot of these are because a lot of Japanese models and mecha and stuff are pretty organic looking.
Now that's the MK, just for the podcast listeners.
Sorry, I just did the same thing. Hey guys, look at this. This is amazing.
We do that on purpose to try to get the
That's right. I want everybody to come and watch the YouTube channel.
Hey, that's good too.
Yeah. The YouTube's exactly the same thing as the. So I got to change the music out for licensing, and that's it. This is the Maschinenkrieger 44 type MK44 Ammo Knights. This is a robot battle model kit, and these come highly detailed. Really, really detailed. And the factory where they make these things is so freaking cool. I mean, the amount of detail they put into these machined parts where they make these injection molded pieces and stuff. It's craziness. I mean, I really feel bad taking this and using this for greeblies, to be honest. It's just like, this stuff is so cool. I want to make it. So
we get that a lot as far as comments. Like, I can't believe you cut up a zapper gun, or I can't believe you took an old camera and you did that. And I think that there are people that collect those items
Yeah.
for the value of what they are, like a Graphics. I mean, a true camera collector, super upset that you went and drilled holes in it and did that.
I got yelled
Right.
at. I got yelled
Yeah.
at.
I bet. But
Well,
at
I
the
mean,
same
they're-
token, it's like,
Well, when they're
I'm gonna value
plastic,
this too.
yeah,
It
when they're
took me
plastic
10
Greeblies, that's
years.
one thing. That's
It-
gorgeous.
There's
There you
the
go.
That one back there.
there's the actual thing. So
There you go.
When you
Yeah.
Now,
when
is
you
that an
have
original Graphics?
yes,
yeah
I cut you off there.
yeah, yeah.
when you
the-
have the
I-
you know, the Greeblies and they're made out of plastic and stuff, that's one thing.
there it goes.
Sure.
Ah,
You
There
know,
you
you ought to
go.
put some guts in that too.
right? Yeah.
Put a little kyber crystal.
Have
in
you
it.
seen how much those chassis go for?
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, you
That's
can
nuts.
build it from pieces on Shapeway. So
Have
that's
you
sort of like the
seen-
layaway plan, but dang.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
Jesus.
There's a guy. I think he's German. I don't know, but he has made the most beautiful innards,
Yeah.
and they all light up, and it's
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
It has all the
Absolutely.
brass
Yes.
fittings
Yes.
and everything.
I
Yeah.
love yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
But like
unbelievable.
you know, like even like this, people don't realize that it was oriented like this with the dish on the back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you
This
look
is-
at Kylo Ren's saber, and people are like, "Why? That's crazy! You cut your own hand off. That's the stupidest thing ever." Graphics had a light like that, so and it's like,
Yep.
hey, up on J.J. Abrams.
It was
for
a little bit of a
going-
nod. Yeah.
yeah, nice
Yep.
job there. I was
Yeah.
just really
Yeah.
impressed. We've kind of strayed off of
Sure.
but this is so fun. I mean, we
We
talk
do.
about everything here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that you've made.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Run us
Um,
through the gambit there, buddy. You've got
Wow.
Okay.
It's,
All right. But
and,
we'll-
and
we'll
your
hit you
answer
with-
is go watch my channel.
That's right.
start at
We'll,
the beginning.
we'll hit you with the question that we hit a lot of people with, which is, what was your favorite one that you feel like you really nailed it? You were just in the zone, and what was the one that got away from you?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a heavy one. The one that got away from me is also the one that started the channel. So the channel was founded because I decided to rebuild my basement project.
Right.
Yeah. I was gonna
And
ask
my
you
wife
when it's gonna
said-
be finished.
Yep, my wife said you need to record it, and I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with it? And she says, well, just put it on YouTube, just so somebody can see that you did this, and that more importantly, that she allowed it to be done. So if you've never seen the channel, we're basically turning the entire basement into the inside of a spaceship.
Mhm.
That's based loosely on the in-universe look of Star Wars,
Right.
slightly influenced by the Millennium Falcon. So the truth is, I had done that whole basement once before, and it was a complete failure to me. And so I quit. I gave up on it. I spent 2 years working on it, and then I walked away from it and said, I'm going to tear all of this down. I'm going to re-sheetrock everything, and we'll just finish it like a boring old basement that you'd find in any normal suburb, and we'll call it a day. And then I let it sit for about a year, and then I just kind of got the bug to do it again. And I went through and I 3D rendered the whole thing or 3D designed it in SketchUp, fully rendered it, add lighting, and did the whole works, and showed it to my wife, and she said, you have to build that. If you can build it to where it looks like that, then you have to do it. So the answer is that was my biggest failure, which I'm going back to make it right. And this time I'm going much slower, and that meets a lot of frustration with folks, because I think on the YouTube channel, everybody wants to see another room build and another room build. And I know that if I don't pace that out and I don't attack each and every tiny little section with as
You'll end
much
up with the
perfection,
first one.
it won't end up the way I said it would.
Right.
So I'm doing that. So yeah, that's kind of that answer. I think the other answer, as far as what I'm most happy with, I can't think of like the one.
You make
There's
a
been a
lot
couple
of
of-
good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank
It's like
you.
I've not seen you do anything yet where I kind of went, No, he didn't quite get it. I haven't seen anything on the channel. Like, and I've gone through your channel like list several
I
times.
appreciate that.
It's really inspiring. Sometimes I'll just stick it. I've got a monitor over here and I'll just stick it on in the background and shoot, because I've got a YouTube channel that I started making baby Yodas. And my wife is like, you need to,
I mean, it's a perfect outlet. I mean,
Right.
it's a great outlet for anyone that makes anything.
Well,
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
That is
I haven't painted
incredible,
him.
Baby Yoda.
I haven't painted him yet, but I made a bunch of them. So a friend of mine that used to work at Legacy mailed and said, can you make me one of these? It's like, yeah, sure. So and I made one. My wife's like, you know how to film that. And so I did, and it kind of got the same way, but I haven't been able to keep up with it. It's a lot of work, man. Filming something and then doing that.
It's a lot. And we try to do one every week on top of a full-time job. So it's a challenge. And sometimes I think that's also why I don't say that we sandbag a week or two or we do filler episodes, but I try to take on a smaller project I can do in a day or a day and a half, and then others that are multi-week
one day
long.
build.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to be able to keep it out. I think that if I was going to answer the one that I love the most is not Star Wars. It's the alien facehugger.
Oh, that was
stasis tube.
really good.
I always wanted one of those, and I
Yeah.
always thought that would be something I couldn't do. And that one took me to an area that I wasn't comfortable and just pushed through it. And I was really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
That was
Odin made one of those, and
Yeah.
that was pretty good. I really like that. I haven't made one of those yet, but the tube, the actual
It's
tube
the challenge.
itself
It's the
is
tube.
the challenge for me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want a seam in it.
And we have one in ours, but
We
it's
just
at
stick
the
it behind.
back.
Yeah, you just stick it behind one of the posters.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing about YouTube is that there are these algorithms that everybody's trying to beat or figure out and such. And
Yep.
then you look at somebody like Mark Rober, who does not upload very often. Like sometimes you'll have like
Right.
4 months in between them. But
Yeah.
the things that he uploads are,
Everybody wants to see it.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, so which is it? Quantity or quality? And he really goes for quality, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're making some really good stuff. I'm wondering, watching your channel, do you need to upload something once a week? Because the stuff that you make it's on point. It's
Thank
on
you.
point. Like, I mean,
Thank you.
Eric, Dave,
Yeah.
have him hire Brian. Jeez.
Right.
I think the thing is, like, I can't stop. So we don't have kids. My wife and I don't have kids. So everybody's like, well, where do you find the time? I'm like, well, what do you do after 5 o'clock? You probably have kids, you help with homework,
kids, so yeah.
There's an entire full day's job that you have with just the kids after school.
Yeah.
And we look at each other and we're like, I don't know, let's go in the garage and make something, because we just have that for us. So the churning out of projects does two things. It satisfies this absolute need to just constantly do stuff.
Create something, right?
Right. And then the other thing is that I'm so obsessed with learning new techniques and trying something else and just pushing myself to the point of failure.
Welcome to Random Fandom, everybody. This is our new opener.
Yep.
Push yourself say that again. Say that again and loud.
What did I say?
You said that. You're so pushed to learn new things that you push yourself even to failure.
You look at YouTube as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Push that is, for me, I know there's a lot of different stuff out there, but the stuff I consume, it's all about, well, I learned how to do machining, or I learned how to work with wood, or I use beauty products to create a car motor. I mean, like, this is crazy stuff that you can learn.
That's impressive.
And there's no kind of extent to it. So I catch one little tidbit and I'm like, I got to learn everything I know that I can about that. And then I'm going to build something with it. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to learn something else. And that's just the nature of it. I think that's why we do it.
Yeah.
We
That's
could
why we wanted
probably,
you on the show.
yeah,
Absolutely.
we could probably upload one epic over the top project a month and grow. I've also really come to appreciate that we're a small channel, 33,000 subscribers. But within that, the community that has been grown in that 33,000 is unbelievable. And if you asked me 3 years ago, well, why are you doing it? It'd be to document. A year or 2 years ago, it would have been, well, I want to grow the channel. And now it literally is because
The community.
there are super fans of what we're doing, not of us, but what we're doing, and I hope the mythology behind why we're doing it. They come every week, and it wouldn't matter. Obviously, it does at some point, but it doesn't really matter what it is. We did an episode last week on MDF.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
what is MDF and how to work with it. And it's
wear your
not,
mask.
right. Yeah. Safety, all that kind of stuff. And we got messages about how great that was. And we removed an entry to barrier for someone that wanted to go
Actually,
make
I
something
wanted
and
to
thought
tell
they
you
couldn't.
about that too. I wanted to mail you and say that was really good that you especially hit on the fact that you have to wear a mask when you're using it, because man, that
So bad
dust
for
is
you.
it's got formaldehyde in it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that stuff covers my office. Like,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
you can't get rid of it, and you really have to clean well with it. But the fact that you went over what's in it, how to coat it, how to get the texture out of it that you want, and then you went into like a chalkboard. This was like a year ago or something, but you were doing your display case build, and you're like, this is chalkboard, material.
Yeah.
It's made out of MDF, but it's coated already. And I was like, yeah.
Right.
That was really good stuff.
Already
The
painted.
community is what's that? Yeah, it's already been coated.
It's already painted. Yeah.
What I think is really
the community
really appealing about what you're doing, and that I think drew us to you and wanted to get you on the show, is what you're selling is possibilities. That people, if they can dream it and they're creative enough, they can make it.
Even if you're not creative enough, you can do something.
Right.
Right.
You might find creativity that you didn't think you had.
Your creativity is it's like a muscle, right? If you start working it out, you'll be like, I could do this and then that. And it's kind of replacing or working that muscle that you were talking about, that how they squish it out of kids.
Squish that imagination right out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Get it going again. And then
the world is a mess, and we all spend so much time. Even if you love your job, the amount of time that you spend there versus with your loved ones is usually outweighed in some form or fashion. And my wife and I have found, after 20 years of marriage, there's something else that we really enjoy together. And that is also the other driving factor for us, is that we're filming and editing together. We're building projects together. We found something else that wasn't there before.
You listened
and then that
to
started
No
doing
Instructions recently, didn't you?
I didn't. I missed the last three.
He and Josh talked about that.
Really?
Sorry, No Instructions is Bob and Josh. That I've gotten to know them through the Maker Alliance and stuff, and I absolutely love those guys. And
Me too.
they talk about watching the Wonder Years, and the guys on the Maker Alliance and we've decided that I may have to cut this part out of the show, but I want to promote the Maker Alliance as well. Those guys really deserve it. So there's this thing on the Wonder Years when Bob's like, you watch it as a kid and you're like, oh, that's great. Oh, this is fun. This is really cool. You watch it as an adult and you're like, that's a gut punch. Oof, that hits home. And the dad works this job that just drains his ability to relate to his family out of him. And so you watch the show, and the kid's view of his dad is he comes home from work and his wife hands him his tea that he's already made or whatever, and he sits down in the same spot, and it's just the same thing every day because he's been so drained from work. That I think and we decided we're going to sit back, we're going to have a talk about this, because a lot of us are dads,
Yeah.
And a lot of us kind of feel like that. I mean, absolutely love my job.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it when I get home too, and I do it with the kids, but not being able to do it. And these last couple of months, especially this last year, has been really hard for so many people. Having
Oh,
that
yeah.
community for your channel and stuff has been really good, man.
Good. Yeah, it's become the most important thing to us and the driving force. If we say this week is a perfect example. We usually upload on Wednesday.
Mhm.
It's Wednesday today. We're not ready. We said we'd be up tomorrow. It won't be up tomorrow
Hey, but
because
you
we're
put a
still
community
behind.
picture up there.
We did, and we said tomorrow, and then my wife said, I can't get there tonight. And I said, that's fine. We'll get it up on Friday.
Right.
And that's okay, because we know that it's that important to us that we want to make sure it's there. I won't share too much about this because I want to keep privacy at paramount. But
Yeah.
this last year, there was someone that reached out to us, and I get this really long message from this person explaining a lot of different things that had happened that were really bad for this person. And they had gotten to the point where, this is so crazy to say, and it blows my mind every time I tell somebody this, but they got to the point where they didn't feel like life was worth going on.
Wow.
And then
Oh, wow.
on a random evening, they find the Smuggler's Room channel and binge watch for 2 days, start making something, found a purpose, and then decided to send us a message saying, you saved my life. I mean,
Oh,
That's heavy.
it's on a
That's-
layer that you can't even get your head around, and you
Yeah.
don't know what to say about it. It took me a day to respond, because what do you tell somebody?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, I'm building stuff out of junk in my garage, and somebody else found something there. And that's what it is. It's that thread that they found and said, I'm going to go do something. I've got another purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just changed everything for us. We're like, well, we'll just keep doing it. It's not going to stop. You know,
There-
beautiful.
there's
That's fantastic.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No,
It
no,
is
no, that's
fantastic. Well, I was going to say there's the community that you build, and the community can be, revolved around whatever you're making.
Yeah.
It can revolve around the fact that you're making things together.
Yeah.
It can revolve around the fact that you have this circle of friends that you may have never met. It's like, interesting fact, everybody, I've never actually met Derek. And yet he
Oh,
is
wow.
me, he is me in the States. Like Derek and I, like our Venn diagrams cross over on like every point,
Yeah.
except
Wow.
for I think one, which is really interesting. That's the one thing we don't talk on the show. So, but he and I understand, and we know and respect each other for every, like, it's really strange. You can build
That's
these
crazy.
communities up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you get to the point, I think, where people want to be a part of something, and making things can fill a really big need. I mean, my daughter has
Yeah.
this thing on her wall that says we were created to create.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
That's incredible.
And
I like that.
yeah,
Man.
I really think it's true.
Yeah.
And you have made a community, and it's growing like daily, like especially like in the last couple of months, I've seen it just like
Yeah.
jump up.
It's been fun.
It's been really inspiring, like
Yeah.
really inspiring. And it was funny because I caught onto your channel, I don't know, a couple months back, and then Bob said something about, Brian Thompson over the Smuggler's Room, and the music to your show just started going through my head, and I was like, I watch that guy. He's awesome. It's so good.
He's been such a supporter. When he mentioned us on his podcast, I think 6 months, 8 months after we started, he had caught an episode, and it was like we had 1,700 subscribers, and we're getting
And they jumped
400
right
or
up, didn't
500. It did, but it was just more of like, you see somebody like Bob, and you think, well, they're beyond my reach, right? That realm. And you admire him for what they've done. I've watched him since he started his channel, and just the genuine nature of him as a person is what draws me to watch. I'll watch him make a potted plant just because I enjoy being part of that group, right? That community. And we went to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago 2 years ago, and I'm standing at the front desk of the hotel we were staying at, and I hear my name, and I turn, and there's Bob.
Yeah.
And he's like, "How you doing?" Like, just starts up a conversation.
Yeah.
I told my wife when I got back to the room, I said, I don't even know what I said to him. I was so like excited as a fan.
He's just a guy. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny that he's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
It's like people watch. It's like people watching Evan and Caitlin. You know, they love making
Yep.
stuff, but they screw stuff up all the time. But just
Yeah.
watching,
But that's part of the
It's
process.
just enjoyable.
yeah,
Right.
that
It is. It's part of the
relationship
process.
between them
Yeah.
is just so.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch. But I love watching you on the show. I mean, man, you really
Thank you.
bring it to, and it's so funny. What the lightsabers you and your wife built.
That was fun. That was really fun.
She
You
brings a whole
lost,
other
dude.
level.
You lost.
Yeah. And I'm gonna lose this week too. Guaranteed. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this was our we're building a pair of Mandalorian costumes,
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
head to toe, right? And she wanted to build the blasters for them today, the sidearms
Yeah.
this weekend. And we got through working on Sunday, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm gonna lose again. I'm looking at her. I'm like, yep, I lost again. She's like, I don't know why you bother.
She likes to feel you tried.
She likes
Yeah.
to let you know that you gave a concerted effort.
Yeah, I tried.
An E for effort there, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, and part of we don't want to keep you too long, Brian. I mean, this is
Sure.
amazing. But part of this
This is so
podcast
fun,
for
man.
us is we're taking advantage of this renaissance. I mean, we're at the start of a new millennia, and we're 20 years in already. But
Yeah.
we're able to reach. I can be friends with James in Japan, and then
Yeah.
you in Colorado, and we can do stuff like this. We can get together, and
Yeah.
it's
You can meet anyone. I think it's the pure. You can look at the internet, right, in two ways. You could say, well, there's a lot of evil in the internet, a lot of dangerous places, but at the same time, the root of it, there's a lot of community that you can build in places you never in your lifetime would have been able to do. If you live in rural America somewhere, and maybe you have a town of, you know, I graduated in a high school class of 21 people.
Mhm.
Right? My wife laughs at all the time. I'm thinking, well, if that was all I could ever be exposed to, I would maybe meet one or two people that are similar to me or have interests like I do.
There's a
And
lot
now,
of people
like
in
you
my high
said-
school, ain't nobody like me. I was the geek.
Right. But now you can find all those other geeks in the world,
Yeah.
and you can all be in the same space. I mean, like you said, tonight we're in 3 different places across the globe, and we're able to just sit back and talk about the things we love, and there's a connection there, and that's the best part of the whole thing. Yeah.
So talking about the things that you love and stuff, you mentioned that you have a podcast on your love of horror movies.
Yeah. So my wife and my brother-in-law and I have the Bloody Reel, REEL, and it's
real
when I
bloody.
married my wife, her father was a big horror fan. He passed away several years back, but every time we got together as a family, he would always say, okay, top 5 favorite horror movie deaths, or top 5 favorite horror movies from the 80s, or whatever the case was. And so the 3 of us, that's all we talk about. We just constantly do that. And one day, I can't even remember which one it was that said, we should just do a podcast where we just talk about it. And we started doing it literally only for the love of sitting down to talk about movies. And I think we just recorded our 10th, and it's been a really enjoyable process.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID and the lockdown, we're able to spend time together in a way that we don't feel stressed out about all this mess.
Is it published yet? Is it out?
It is. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going there.
I just sent you an email, by the way, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Don't.
My high school life, I grew up in New Hampshire, in a little town in New Hampshire, and funny enough, Adam Sandler and I come from the same town.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And the Segway, apparently. So, but my Friday night was get a pizza, a 2-liter of Coke, and hit Blockbuster and straight to the horror aisle.
There you go.
I watched everything. Good, bad, the ugly. I watched it all.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly is not a horror movie.
Oh, right,
No.
right. Sorry.
But there is, yeah.
Uh,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Did you no, I have never seen a Chucky movie.
Really?
I have never seen a Chucky movie.
That's. I don't know if that's fortunate or unfortunate. It depends on what your taste is.
Well,
I went back and watched the original one about a month ago.
Yep.
And I realized why I liked that original one. I have a writer friend here. I mean, this is LA. Everybody's something, right?
Right.
And this guy's a writer for like Adventure Time Adventure Time. Yeah, the animated show. And he and I got in this heated debate because he likes the new Chucky. And I was like, I get it. It's a different thing. But I almost wanted it to be a completely different thing because I like what they did. And I love Mark Hamill. I mean,
I was going to say, you got to love it. For
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted it to not be Chucky. I wanted it to be something else.
It's the Joker.
Sure.
Because it was a great concept, but I think they sold it on the idea that it was a remake of Chucky. But it really isn't.
Well,
yeah.
I like I said, I haven't seen any of those yet. That's the thing that actually has kept me from going to watch Chucky recently because I knew that they were redoing it, and I thought,
yeah, you got to see it. You gotta, but you have to watch that kind of thing to the appreciation of what they did at the time, right? The special effect,
Pumpkinhead. I mean, there are some things that you're never going to be able to remake, and there's some things like The Thing, like the original. Well, no, the original Thing.
They remade it.
Like Matt
not
Dillon.
the original, the second. John Carpenter.
The second one, not Matt Dillon's. Who?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody who's listening is old enough to remember that. But John
That's
Carpenter's The Thing. They it was right.
They made the prequel of it,
and
yeah.
Now there's a huge difference between stuff that's practical and stuff that's like digital and stuff that we can redo this, we can make this better, and then there was a thing that there was a texture to it that made it,
and a speed,
and a timing and everything, and you could pace things out. Oddly enough, you know what makes Jaws such a good movie is that you
don't see the shark.
You don't see the shark. He couldn't get the shark to do what he wanted to do, and so they couldn't put it in the shots that they wanted it in. And it makes it such a suspenseful movie, right?
Well, you know, to that end, Brian, we were trying to introduce the kids to scary movies. They said we want to watch something scary, so we've been watching Doctor Who and things like that. The first thing we introduced them to was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I was just getting ready to say,
yeah,
because aliens.
It's what you don't see. That kid, you're worried for the little boy because you don't know what's taking him.
Yeah,
you know, and then at the end, he's okay.
And now your kids are sitting there making Devil's Tower out of mashed potatoes.
Yeah, out of mashed potatoes.
But see, okay, my 6-year-old gets it when I go, "This means something," you know.
Yeah. He knows what you're talking about. Is it my kids? Because I sunburn so easily, and I like fell asleep like on the beach. I burned half my face, and my daughter's like, "You look like Richard Dreyfuss," and I was like, "Oh, you know what we're talking about."
Yeah.
The little head with the spider arms from The Thing. It's
Thing.
Like on the top of my gotta make list on the channel. By the way.
Actually, I've been thinking about doing that for Halloween. And one of my clients had me make like some really scary stuff for his office. And I was like, "Do you want this kind of stuff?" And he's like, "Make me a vampire bat that looks like it's going to suck your blood." And I'm like, "You run a proper business, dude. That I'm not really." He's like, "Do it with like my face on it." I'm like, "Wow."
Oh my God. Awesome.
And I'm like, "Your clients are going to see that, and you think they might put 2 and 2 together? I don't know, man."
Oh wow!
I'm going to take all of your blood and your money. Okay, fair enough. Sure, whatever.
Well,
there's so much stuff.
We'll start pulling this together for the end. But Brian, is there anything that you want to tell the listeners, tell us about, to look forward to? You can hint. You don't have to tell us everything. If you know.
You know what? Honestly, there's so much stuff going on that we're trying to get our head around. I think if there's one thing that we have been working on that I can share that I'd like to is we for a long time we've done a project build a week, and I've always felt like we're missing something, and so we've dabbled lightly in what we call geekication.
Mm.
And
I
the idea
like
there,
those.
yeah, and we've had a
They're
couple,
really
and we
good.
had some early in our early episodes where we combined them with the episode and whatnot. And the
The
thought
intro to
was
it's
that
great.
thank you.
Time for
We
geekification. I'm
we
sorry, I'm
thought, well,
interrupting you.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I think what we decided that we were going to try to do is, you get a project video on. Hopefully, we can get back to Tuesday because Wednesday just sucks for us. But we can get back to Tuesdays, and then on Friday you'd get a geekification of various lengths. And really, it's there's so many different things that we would like to teach that we are comfortable with, whether that's basic electronics or weathering or mold making or whatever it is that we're doing that we could extract from the episode you just saw. So if you saw Chucky and Carbonite, then we could show you MDF treatment. I'm using that because that just happened, right? But there's a
Kind of
lot
like
of
a
different things
bits
that we want to do.
video to something.
Very similar. It's funny.
Yeah.
We've been talking about geekification for 2 years, and Bob rolled out bits, and my wife
I
goes,
know.
"Well, you waited too long on that, didn't you?"
Well, you know
But-
how I found Bob's channel because I wanted to make my channel called I Like to Make Stuff. And I was like, you type it in, and it pops up, and I was like,
Gosh,
for crying out loud. And that's how I got to know him that way.
dang it! I'm late to the party.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's what
Yeah,
happens
exactly.
here. James calls me and says, he goes, I want to do a podcast. And I said to him, before he told me what it was going to be, I said, well, if I was ever going to do a podcast, I'd want to do about jacks of all trade, people who learn lots of skills. And he
Yeah.
goes, guess what this is about? And I was like, oh my God, literally, if I wanted to do a podcast, this is exactly what I want to do. And so then a little while later, he said, you guys, do you want to co-host it and do it
there you
together?
go. Yeah,
Across the world, yes. Let's
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
no
And we've
doubt.
met
Yeah.
a lot
No,
of
it's
really
awesome.
interesting folks, but
I bet.
it's funny that we keep going back to this community thing. There are so many people who really do share your love of making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, I don't know how to say that quite without just sounding like a geeky fanboy, but you really hit that
Aren't we
nail on
all?
the head.
I mean, really,
You hit that nail on the head, man. I mean, that just you nailed it. I mean, everything
appreciate
down
that.
to the opening, the catchphrases. I mean, it's like Alex Steele. It's like, it's fantastic having you here. Just like and that's coming up. And I'm like, heck yeah, man. I was like, I can't wait to see. It's like my kids are like, my daughter said something to me the other day, and she's like, and that's coming up. And I was like, okay.
Oh, wild.
Somebody's watching.
No,
Yeah.
but you know what? What you found is sort of a niche because for us, I mean, we're fairly experienced builders, but you're such an enabler for us. This is fantastic. We're like, I gotta build that. I gotta find that old camera.
Well, I mean, I
gotta
think
find this,
that's
you know?
I think that's the thing
Yeah.
about inspiring, like especially during COVID right now. The reason we started this podcast is because a lot of people can't do what they want to be doing right now.
Sure.
And you don't want people's creativity and imagination to die off.
No,
And
no, especially now.
seeing so much seeing the ability for inspiration, and like we were talking a minute ago about how some things can be good or some things can be bad, and it's what you put how you put it to use. The internet can
Right.
really be a good thing. Like I think
Yeah.
evil can't exist in a vacuum, right? It has to
Sure.
be
Sure.
kind of the bad. It has to be the, I don't know how to say this. I'm gonna have to edit this out a bit, but the corruption of something that's good, right?
Yeah.
Killing somebody's
Yeah.
bad, but you have to have life to begin with, right? So
Right.
that good thing has to be there, and you're doing the good work on YouTube. I mean, it's really inspiring. It's motivational. It's creative. You're creating community. You're doing so many different things. You're learning different skills, and then you're showing people. You're teaching people how how to use those things. I'm looking forward to the to more geekification, because that's
Yeah.
Good.
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're
Did
excited
you
about it.
guys happen to see the video of the little boy in Africa that's making his own Iron Man armor out of cardboard? And
Yeah.
he makes his own glue out of styrofoam.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I mean,
I did see that.
that's a creative force. So it shows up on my Facebook, and I said, this kid is so inspiring. What a builder. He says, thank you. He
Oh,
answered me. And I was like, I'm texting with him, and I said, you're so
Really?
inspiring to me, and he goes, he says, I just have to make, I just have to build. And he said he was inspired by Bill Duran, and
oh my gosh.
he was inspired by Adam Savage and Hackspace, or the
James
Matt,
Thompson.
James. Yeah.
yeah. And I just think that that's amazing. This kid has an internet access and a dream, and
there's people to fuel that.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even touch on Adam Savage. I mean, through COVID, that's how I've gotten through it. I mean,
Right?
that guy's churning out a new thing every single
day, man.
And you're just
honestly,
like, oh, I got to get to work.
And it's like, yeah,
He's
but
like, I'm gonna
he's
make
like,
a
Adam.
medicine.
You're like, yeah, I know that didn't take a day, dude. I knew that took 2 or 3. I'm like, you lying to your teeth there.
I
Norm's
have
in the
my
background.
shirt from him. I have my shirt from him that says, "No one day build ever takes one day."
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
my
we want to
God.
get him on the show, so
Right.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
I'll have to.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
him. I don't know him at all.
I met him twice at the Emmys.
And you said, Adam, come on the podcast.
Yeah, they didn't have Emmys
Yeah.
this year. They didn't. They
Yeah,
said,
you got
I
to.
didn't.
I bet there's enough connection. If you got someone like Bill Duran on the show, I mean, he's got connections to them, and maybe that leads to another. That's the other thing that's great, is that all the different people that you are going to bring on here. Not only does that make more connections for you guys, but
Yeah.
I'm super excited about the fact that I'm going to be able to listen to all these different people that all have maybe completely different interests in what they do, but the vein is all the same. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some people coming on the show that, I mean, the thing is we've been focusing a lot on makers this first season. But we've got some musicians lined up. I have friends who make like reeds for oboes. I have
Oh
friends
my
who,
gosh.
cut silhouettes.
we
Just so many different people from different, really, really different genres.
Yeah, well, like I play violin, so I have a luthier that I
I
go
play the
to.
fool. Sorry, Ringo Starr joke.
I don't play it well, but I try. It's been a while too. It's been since we had the kids. I haven't been playing the violin, but I'm so enamored with this process, this alchemical process of, wood and string and varnish, and these guys are wizards with what they can do with a piece of wood.
Well,
You
this is, I mean, there are so many different things that we want to all be able to do, and I think from this show and Brian, your show, I want to wrap it up by just saying that there are a lot of ways that people can be creative, right?
Yep.
You can take junk and make something out of nothing. You can write music.
Yeah.
You can do so many different things in your own way, and that's what we want to keep people inspired to do. We really want, well, I want, and I'm pretty sure Derek wants, to people to kind of find that creativity within yourself, that imagination, and then be able to let it go. And you really do a great job of that on your show, and I want to thank you for keeping that up, because it's been fun for me and my kids to watch. Just going through. I don't think they liked the Chucky one as much as I did.
we wondered how that would go over with kids.
Well, no, because my kids have recently gotten into Demon Slayer, which is a Japanese anime. It's it's not really demons, it's more like vampire. Anyway, this is aside from the point. But they're starting to kind of like, oh, well, that Chucky wasn't so bad then, maybe, and I'm like, okay, sure, they'll enjoy it. But my kids don't like horror movies at all, so
there you go.
We recently there was a auction, and I'm part of way too many of these auctions, out here in LA, because they have these clearinghouses for props and movies and and stuff like that.
Man.
I've got boxes full of like old vacuum tubes that I got from a prop auction. And they're just brilliant. And none of them work, but they're so cool. And
They look great.
Stick some LEDs in there and make some cool.
Right?
You can,
steampunk
It's steampunk stuff. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. So they're in the garage, but
all out.
Did you see this guy in England made a steampunk Iron Man?
It's so good. It's so.
I haven't seen that.
Okay,
it's crazy.
I gotta look.
Yeah, we'll send you the link. But yeah, so a screen used Chucky came up for sale, and yeah. And so I'm bidding on it, and I'm bidding on it. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I can't afford this. They tripled what I was willing to pay, and they still didn't meet the reserve. This thing.
Oh my gosh.
And then my wife goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you didn't get it." She goes, "That thing creeps me out."
I had to go to I didn't have to go to. I was in France. This is years ago. This is 20 years ago. And I was staying at a friend's house, and his grandmother, this is his grandmother's house, had passed away, and his aunt had lived with her, and she had collected dolls, and all these French porcelain dolls were lining like two walls. I have never been able to look at dolls the same way. So it's just, they're just like,
nope.
No, thank you. It's like my kids can't stand like clowns after seeing it, and now, and I'm like,
nope,
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
No clowns, no dolls. Yeah.
That's it. What do you do with them? Stick them in carbonite.
There you go. That's the only way to get safe.
That's right. I'm gonna stay safe. I've got to get back to work. Oops, I better cut that out.
Okay.
Strangely, me too.
Yeah. What time is it right now?
For me, it's 8:00, and for you, it's 9. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I love what you guys are doing, and this is going to be awesome. So thanks for having me on.
Would love to have you back on at some point as well.
Sure.
We could.
Yeah.
I mean,
just say the word.
There seems to be a load of stuff that you've still got. We didn't even go through the things that you'd made.
Well, yeah.
That's all right. That's all right.
It was like the first question I had, and we didn't get to go through it.
I love that you're even making, I'm building all the time, and then I get ideas from you. For Christmas, I got this really evil idea that, hey, maybe for my son, we could get him one of those land speeders.
Oh.
So we got the Star Wars land speeder cheap. Some guy was selling it. Oh yeah, and we got it.
Yeah.
It was still in the box. It was fantastic. And that thing takes off like a shot. And then I see your video, and I go, oh, what I could do. Or there's the other guy that turned it into a Millennium Falcon, and you go,
yes.
Oh,
I didn't see that. I've just been watching Colin
he made it all out
build
of
a real
like
metal
a foam shell.
Oh,
really?
A foam shell. It was outstanding. Yeah, he did a great job.
They're drifting in it. It's like
it was fantastic.
I have to see this.
I love it. So I like that we can all sort of enable each other and inspire each other and grow. You're like, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of doing that. That's fantastic.
By the way, go watch Colin Furs make his land speeder.
Oh, his speeder was outstanding. That man is insane too. I love that.
He really is. You got to get your safety tie on.
Right. Yes.
Start wearing a safety tie.
I mean, talk about the internet being a dangerous place. He built a rocket bike.
Oh yeah.
It's like, here's how to build a jet in your backyard. Like,
we were talking about the hacksmith a little while ago. He took a glass blowtorch and turned it into a lightsaber.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
It actually cuts through stormtroopers. Good job, man. I can't wait for and somebody on the Discord got all mad that he's like, I can't believe you didn't plug the company that you bought the glass blowtorch from. I don't think they want their name on something where somebody's misusing their product, making a 3-foot long plasma torch.
Right.
Come on, man. Did you guys ever see, there was an old MTV, I know I just said we got to go so many times, but there's an old MTV, it was like a Christmas holiday special or something, and you see this little boy get a lightsaber for Christmas, and he's like, "Yeah, lightsaber!" And his grandmother's sitting in the background. She just slides in half. He tells his grandmother, and you're like, "Oh my god, so nasty!" And they showed it, and I was like, "This is an MTV commercial."
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
"Oh, those days of MTV." Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know
Have a
where we're
great
gonna
night,
cut
both
this.
of you.
I don't know where we're gonna cut this off. I don't know how we're gonna.
The magic of the edit.
That's
It's
right.
You're editing this, and not me, man. I don't know how to do this. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate the inspiration. Keep making
bet.
something out of nothing.
We will.
Wait,
Thanks,
Brian.
guys. Yeah.
You do our outro.
Sure. What?
I don't know, whatever you like. We had Dan Poffenmeyer on here a couple of weeks ago, and he does the voice for Doofenshmirtz, and so he did our new opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "We're on a podcast." I was like, "Wow!" So I can't do it, but he did our intro. That was so funny.
That was really great.
Yeah, for Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Yeah, you could do our outro and just be like, "Great job, everybody! Keep making something out of that." I don't know.
Yeah. Make sure you listen to the Random Fandom where they build something out of nothing.
And there we have it. Thanks, folks.
There you go.
Yeah, this is like the most informal podcast ever.
I love it. No, I love it. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
We thought we're crapping this out. We're just talking, and then
Yeah.
we that was the thing that people liked, was that
Yes.
they felt like they're just coming into a private conversation, people who
Yeah.
make stuff, and
Yeah.
hearing behind the scenes. So we were like, well, let's go with that. Let's
Yeah.
keep it that way.
No, that's a great way to do it. I love that aspect of it. Just have people having conversations. I don't know what it is about that too. And when I used to commute a lot, that was the thing, right? I wanted to listen to podcasts where they were talking about a subject I was interested in, and it was a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but like this, the behind the scenes stuff where they're like, oh, and working with this person was so wonderful. They're so inspirational. And what a talent. That tells me nothing.
Listen to the after show. That guy chews his food with his mouth open.
Yes, I want that. Like the thing where they're like, it becomes Chris Farley, right? Where he's like, remember that thing where there was the thing that was hilarious.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I want
I don't
that.
know.
Agreed.
Our after show would be something like me with Chris Farley and the Fan, where he's like, "Luke, I am your father." What are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Be safe. Yeah.
Yep.
Take
You
care.
too.
Thank you, Brian.